Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Rush Roundtable. This is episode number 145. We have an awesome panel here to discuss some overlooked Rush tracks. We have Donna, we have myself, Adam, Jared, Omar, Paul, and David. Fantastic cast of characters. We have brand new branding, as we usually do. We're going in order, changing up the branding, going from permanent waves to moving pictures. You may have noticed that at the beginning of the episode. And this topic here is overlooked Rush songs. What Rush songs do we think are the most overlooked from each individual record? This episode will be from the debut album through Grace Under Pressure. Excuse me. And how this is going to work is we're going to go around the round table 10 times, I think. I think that's 10 records. And we're each going to give you one song we think is overlooked from that record, and we can define what we think overlooked means in terms of this topic. So is it overlooked by fans? Is a specific song overlooked by do we think it's overlooked by the band? Maybe they didn't play it live. Do we think it's overlooked by radio? Everyone can define that, and you can define that album by album basis too. So completely your discretion. And without further ado, letting Donna go first, because this is one I'm most eager to hear. What song Donna thinks was most overlooked from the debut album? So go ahead.
Well, I'm going to have to go with Here Again. And the reason is, okay, fine, it's not Neil. You're looking for fancy lyrics? Nah. But when I first heard that song, I just got the emotion that they were feeling. I think Geddy does an incredible job on the vocals, and I think this song is ignored by everyone. So forget the fact that it doesn't have fancy lyrics and just get the feeling that is in it. It's an amazing song. I love it. I still love to listen to it.
Well, I echo everything Donna just said, because Here Again was my pick as well. Now, Donna, didn't you tell me that you started off with 3 songs playing on the radio? Working Man, I think you said Finding My Way, and then Here Again. Is that correct?
That is correct. We started with Working Man because, of course, it was a perfect Cleveland record, okay? Then people were like, well, hey, isn't there anything else on the record? And we went with Finding My Way. And to this day, the opening chords of that just give me the chills. I mean, what a great record. But then people were asking, well, is there like a power ballad on the record? Because it was an era when a lot of groups were doing power ballads, hoping to get some airplay on Top 40. And I went looking for a power ballad, and Here Again just jumped out at me. And I could just imagine hearing that song live. And in fact, Geddy said to me, we talked about this. He said the first time they did it live, he was like looking out at the audience and everyone was applauding for them. And they had never had that happen before. And it was such an emotional moment for them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's overlooked mainly for that reason. It was played live at the beginning of the career, and then it kind of just faded off and it almost forgotten about. So that's why I think it's overlooked.
Yeah, Adam, and if you want to hear Rush in their formative stage, again, I beg you, don't compare it to later Rush. If you want to hear Rush when they were just, no pun intended, finding their way, this is the record you want to revisit. Yeah, it's simple. Yeah, it's got kind of, simplistic lyrics, but it also has flashes of brilliance. And that's how I knew these guys are going to be more than just a bar band. It was real obvious.
Absolutely. Adam?
Yeah, I think my pick actually goes along with what Donna was saying about glimpsing the greatness to come. Before and After is my pick for Overlooked, because the first half of that song, you get to see what musical geniuses we had budding. Excellent instrumental work. I feel like the second half is kind of let down with what they set up. I don't think it lives up to the promise it makes, and so I think for that reason it is overlooked, because you'll only remember the not as stellar second half. But I think if you go back and listen to it and listen to that first bit, you get to see such great foreshadowing into the power musicians they became.
Awesome, Jared.
I chose What You're Doing because I think the guitar, riff has as much of a hook as Working Man, honestly. And they only brought it back on the R40 tour after how many years of not playing it, and it cooks just as much as Working Man, in my opinion. So I go with What You're Doing.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff, Omar.
Yeah, I almost picked What You're Doing. Actually, I kind of agree with you there, but actually ended up agreeing with Adam. I picked Before and After. I think it's so overlooked for some of the same reasons Adam said. I think it's underappreciated what this song foregleamed of what was coming, because it sounded very actually progressive because of the completely different time signatures. Slow at the beginning, then they just pick it up towards the end of the song, and Alex's frequent alternating between chords and melodic phrasings, which he did that all the way to the end of his career, and Geddy being very busy on the bass, and that both Alex and Geddy were providing their own melody, complementary. They weren't dependent on just the guitar providing the melody. Like Geddy was really melodic at the same time. And that's also something they did way into the future. Both of them, responsible for providing complementary melodies. And John Rutsey, he did a good job holding it down too. So I just think that from a progressive rock standpoint, I think it's overlooked as what it meant as far as what was coming.
Paul?
Well, to Jared, Adam, and Omar, I'm sorry, but great minds think alike, and I picked Here Again. It's a long song. It's a great power ballad. That 2-minute guitar solo in the second half from Alex is just beautiful, and it's highly overlooked on that album.
David?
Yeah, I went with Here Again as well, and a little bit different perspective. All the reasons that you all gave were right on, but this record was called, Donna will remember this. When's the new Led Zeppelin record coming out? I think Here Again is the most Zeppelin-esque track on that record. It's bluesy, the solo, Paul, that you just mentioned, and I think it's overlooked for that reason. I think it's their most Zeppelin-esque tune on that record.
Very interesting take. All right, let's go around again. Fly By Night, Donna.
Can I just make one very quick comment, and feel free to edit this out if you'd like? If you want to hear a song that Rush were kind of forced to do in the mood, okay? Probably my pick for one of the worst top 40 singles ever. And I say that kindly, but they were told they had to do a top 40 single. It's not who they are. It has never been who they are. They tried their best. And when you listen to it, just listen in the context of somebody said to them, you must do this. And thank God, from that time on, they didn't listen. They were true to themselves. They did what was right for them, and we're all the better for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what do you got from Fly By Night? What is your overlooked track from Fly By Night?
I've got to go with Making Memories. Okay. Again, if you're looking for Neil kind of lyrics, Neil had just joined. Okay. A lot of the songs on it don't really reflect where Neil was or anything much later. But I thought the song was kind of cool from a historical standpoint because it talks about being out on the road. It talks about, gee, this ain't so bad after all. I mean, they're brand new. They're just getting accustomed to it. They're just for the first time having people showing up at their shows and applauding for them and singing along. And this is kind of like the band at the beginning, almost kind of looking at it like innocently, it's like, yeah, maybe this ain't so bad after all. And later on, yeah, they're still grateful for being out on the road. They're still grateful for having their career, but they're never going to be that innocent, this is the first time they're in a recording studio kind of band again. And I just find the song charming. I'm sorry. Maybe that's not a word you use when you think of Rush, but to me, charming.
Well, they were just old enough to appreciate memories.
Yes, yes. That's my point.
In the Time Stand
That
Still
innocence.
documentary, they talk about that time, you know, sort of like what Making Memories is about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it kind of, if I'm remembering correctly, it was inspired by They Took a Wrong Turn. You know, it's like, oh, okay, we're supposed to go here rather than here. And they just decided to turn that into a song.
Yep. The song that I'm going to pick is Beneath, Between, and Behind. And I think that this track is as good as Anthem, the title track, and By Torn the Snow Dog. I think it was just so overlooked that I think this could have been, you know, one of the more popular tracks. It just turns out it wasn't. It was overlooked by the band towards the end of their career. You don't see it on any live records. It was really just kind of a beginning era Rush track. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. But I think that was the last time it was played. Like late in their career, it was completely ignored, right? So yeah, I just think it was overlooked by radio and by the band later in their career. A track that perhaps they could have pulled out on R40 and would have been. Someone's got Windows updates going on there. I don't know here in the background, but anyways, Adam, your pick.
Yeah, totally agree with Beneath, Between, Behind. Love that song, but I had to go with In the End, because I think I just love their obsession with doing slow to start off and change into the rocker to finish it out. And I think they got this one really right. But I think what makes it overlooked is it comes at the end of such a great album that it can get really easy to just skip it because it's long. It's 7 minutes and it's got a slow start. And sometimes you're just like, okay, well, this is just a slow song. But then you miss some incredible vocal talent from Geddy and just one of his best moments with his vocal performance. And you know, just as a musician, hearing all the great stuff that they've got in there, all the ways that they're all supporting each other. Yeah, it's not the flashiest one on the album, but I think it's one of the most successful.
That's fair. Jared?
I'm going to go with Fly By Night. I think this tends to be a theme for title tracks, honestly. Well, title tracks that are not named 2112. And, you know, it's a short, punchy little song that's associated with their early part of their career. And yet, have we heard it live in the last 30 plus years? No, we haven't. And, you know, it's even in like the little, what is it, like the nursery rhyme thing I have, lullaby version I have for my little girl, you know, it's a little Fly By Night. And it's like, but I think it's really overlooked. Yeah. So.
Definitely.
But not by her now at this point.
No,
right? No. Her favorite Rush song. Okay. Omar.
Well, I think the often maligned Rivendell is an overlooked song. I've heard people like it. I've heard people love it. I think I've heard people not liking it that much, but I think it's a really beautiful acoustic arrangement. I think Alex didn't play enough acoustic guitar in Rush's career. Every time he did, you know, Brune's Bane, Farewell to Kings, and The Trees, is beautiful the way he plays acoustic guitar, but he didn't do it that much. And I think Rivendell is a great piece that's overlooked. It shows how good a singer Geddy was. You know, he didn't have to screech to be a good singer. And one thing that I didn't know, even till I just researched it now, I didn't know Geddy was the one who wrote the music to that song. He's the only one credited with the music. So, you know, a few surprises in this song that I didn't realize. I think that some things are overlooked. I think it's a pretty good song, actually.
Absolutely. So Paul's going to tell us why he thinks Anthem, Best I Can, or By Torn the Snow Dog are overlooked, because we've had 5 different picks.
No, I'm sorry, Ryan. I can't do that. I have to agree with you, actually, beneath, between, and behind. Um,
Okay.
the reason it's overshadowed because of Bytor and Fly By Night and Anthem, but also I find it's like a bridge between the old Rush and transitioning to the new Rush, where you have the rocking, like Zeppelin-esque kind of sound, but the Neil lyrics starting to kick in. So I find it's a nice hybrid to kind of transition to the prog rock band they will eventually become, and we all know and love.
Absolutely, 100%. David?
I'm going to go with, in the end, I'm going to agree with Adam here, definitely on that for a few different reasons. One, it's at the end of the record, but it's a beautiful melody, beautiful music, and a little bit of nostalgia. When I was 12 years old, it was the first song I ever learned how to play on guitar, on this $20 guitar that's still on a wall over there. I've had all these years, but it's a lovely song, and it just keeps moving. It starts out slow, but then it builds, and then it crescendo, comes back down. Lovely song, and it was on All the World's a Stage on the 2112 tour, but haven't heard it since.
All right, awesome picks. Just for our viewers, we're going to call an audible mid-episode, and we're only going to go a couple more albums on this episode due to time, but we'll get to all the albums at some point. So going forward, Progressive Steel, Donna.
I gotta go with I Think I'm Going Bald. Reason being that originally, and this is one of those revisionist history things, originally Geddy told me that he was going through a period of time where he had alopecia and where he was losing some of his hair, okay? Which from nerves, from who knows what, it's a genetic disease. You never know why you get it. I had it in college, okay? I got mono, and the next thing I knew, but it happens to lots of people. And years later, he told a different version of the story, which is fine, but it's still a really good song. And I've always liked to listen to it.
I am going to 100% agree with you, Donna. I Think I'm Going Bald. I think this song it's very reminiscent of Fly By Night in the debut album. Musically, I think it's very much overlooked due to its corny title. I think if you take the silliness, which rumor has it that was a kind of a nod or maybe poking fun at Kiss's song called Going Blind. But I think remove the corny title and that part, that lyric in the song, and you have a pretty relatable tune, aging, right? Thematically aging. And I think, quite frankly, I think it probably could have been on the radio had it not been for the corniness of the title. I think it really could have been a hit song from this album. And I think fans and the band alike, overlook this song because of the title. So I don't know what you would call it. That's not up to me to decide, but I definitely think it's overlooked for that reason.
As far as radio airplay, I was with Mercury Records during this period of time, and a lot of radio stations didn't know what to do with Caress of Steel. Okay, they were still just real puzzled by Rush to begin with. And when Caress of Steel came out, it was kind of like, but there's nothing on it that's melodic, and which I disagree with vehemently.
Entirely.
But that was the attitude, and there was this anti-Rush sentiment building at a number of stations, and I think that contributed. I think the song could have been called Hearts and Puppies, and there still would have been people that just not playing this. So
that's fair. Adam?
So mine is The Necromancer. I feel like it's overlooked by a lot of Rush fans just because Caress of Steel is always overlooked as an album. But then when you go into it, as for a long form song, Lamneth is always going to take the spotlight. And then Going Bald is always brought up as being, oh, that's the bad song from Caress of Steel. And so those two songs kind of get pigeonholed. And I think, and then the speaking parts at the beginning of the Necromancer, which are hard to hear, I think makes it so that it's an easy track to want to skip, but you miss out on so many great musical adventures that they went on with that track.
Good call, Jared.
Oh, well, yeah, Adam. Everything he said, I'm going with the Necromancer. I mean, this, could you imagine if they brought this song back at any point in the last 30 years? Like, we would have lost our
Gone
minds.
nuts.
Okay. The line where Getty sings stealthily attacking, I lose it when he said just those two words, right? Yeah. I go nuts every time I hear it.
Yeah.
Everything else Adam said, I was going to say.
All right, Omar.
Yeah, I almost picked the Necromancer, but I ended up picking actually the Fountain of Lamneth, because their first sidelong attempt, and it just always sits in the shadows of 2112 and Hemispheres, and it's a great song. It's a story, a fantastical epic tale, a lot of mood swings. You have the main character experiencing loss, the pressure of pressing on to achieve your goal. And I think, and underlying, besides the journey that this character is taking, it's really about a journey of finding himself, because at the end, he says, "Still I am." So he just, recognizes what he is at the end of everything. And it kind of is like, kind of is correct. Clockwork Angels Jr. To me, they're very similar. I think Neil wrote this, and then much later he wrote Clockwork Angels as the mature version of the Fountain of Lamneth. I find a lot of similarities there, but I just think, because it's in the shadows of these other great sidelongs, I think it tends to be overlooked in that regard.
Good point. Paul's going to tell us why Bastille Day or Lakeside Park are overlooked. Go ahead.
I'm thinking like you, Ryan. I'm think I'm going bald. For the main reasons, I think, like you said, it's the whimsical kind of funny title. Maybe people didn't put it seriously. It's a good tune, but it's funny. I'm on the Rush website, and it says the song was originally written for Kim Mitchell of Max Webster.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Donna's saying that it's because Getty was going through alopecia, and so I don't know what's true, but it's still interesting to know that. What's that?
It could all be true.
Yeah.
I suppose
that's the point. When you're talking about something from like 40, 50 years ago, I mean, you may remember it one way. Then as you get farther away from the event, that was really intended for this. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'm remembering it wrong. So that's why I'm saying I think a little revisionist history set in, and whatever, it's still a great song.
But there was never any drugs. There was never any drugs involved back in the mid-70s.
Oh heavens, no! But all joking aside, these were not guys who were into hard drugs. They never were. Okay, I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of times I even saw them with weed. They just kept it away from me, but partially they weren't that heavy into it. They were more likely to have a beer than do anything. No, they were family men.
It's because they're Canadian. We drink beer.
An ice cold beer.
That's right.
But all joking aside, they really were family men. I mean, what you see is what you get. I'm not going to tell you they spent their lives just reading the Bible, but they had no history of like trashing hotel rooms or, leaving everything torn up. No. So no, I don't think the song really, drugs.
David?
I am also, I think I'm going bald. And, when Neil wrote those lyrics, you would almost think this was a song that came before Neil joined the band that they just put on the record, but Neil wrote those lyrics, right? And it's right after he wrote about the French Revolution, and right after Lakeside Park with the nostalgia, and the Necromancer with its Tolkien-esque story. But what strikes me about that song, looking back over all these years, it was an early version of Time Stands Still, right?
Yeah.
Only, it was kind of funny, but if you really look at the lyrics, it's yeah, it's about time moving on, and you really would wish it wouldn't so fast. That's my take.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right. So yes, 2112. Donna, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Tears. And the reason I'm going with Tears is it has a couple of firsts in it. For the one thing, is it not one of the few songs Geddy wrote the lyrics for?
Yep.
Also, and I could be wrong on this, but I think it's the first time they used a mellotron.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and
Hugh
here's a little
Hugh Syme.
history.
Yep.
Written, I believe, in 76. Geddy got married in 76. And I always associate this song with his love for Nancy. And that is no BS, folks. I know them both. Okay. That's, there are some rock and roll relationships where it's like for the camera. Not that one. That's for real. I mean, if you saw Beyond the Lighted Stage, where Gene Simmons is trying to get Geddy a groupie, and Geddy's like, no, I got to go call my girlfriend. And he was serious. I mean, he and Nancy to this day. Okay. And I love the song, and that's what it always reminds me of.
That's an awesome story. All right, so I'm going to go with The Twilight Zone for my overlooked track from 2112. I just listened to this the other day in preparation for our upcoming deep dive. But I think that this song, it's got wonderful guitar work from Alex. Just kind of how eerie he makes the guitar sound. And I think this is overlooked, kind of similar to like what I said with I Think I'm Going Bald, right? It's thematically, it's kind of geeky. It's kind of based on the show, and I think it's while some people can appreciate it, some people can't. Some people are immediately turned off by the title. Oh, I don't like the show. I don't want to listen to the song, right? And therefore, I think it can be overlooked. It's actually a pretty wonderful song, and therefore, I think it's too niche of a group of people to really appeal to the mainstream, I think, right? So I think it's also in that regard overlooked by radio, or why you never hear the song on anything other than Deep Tracks, which I actually heard it on Deep Tracks not too long ago. But yeah, I just think it's an overlooked song due to the nature of the geekiness of it. So the geek shall inherit the earth.
I got to say, Rand, that when you're a 12, 13-year-old kid coming home from school, rolling a doobie, haven't done that for a long time, but you put your headphones on and you hear at the end of the song, Alex just playing, and then he hits that very high note to go into the last solo, life-changing experience.
And the whispering throughout it, how Geddy's vocals are doubled with the whisper. Yeah.
Excellent choice.
Adam?
So I'm going with Donna with Tears. But my reason is more musical, and in particular about Neil with his drumming in that. It's not too often that you hear him playing in the style of the time, like of the more soft pop feel. It's a very simple and yet very Neil approach to supporting that song. And I think his drum performance is overlooked because of the lyrics, because of the beautiful guitar part that Alex is doing. But when you go and listen to Neil's performance on that, I think it's spectacular, and I think it's beautiful, and I think it's overlooked because it sounds so simple.
And can I thank you for saying that? Because when I hear that song, I think friendship. Okay. I mean, Neil didn't write it. It's not even in the style that Neil would be writing. And yet I hear it like he's trying to support Geddy. He knows that this song has a lot of meaning to him, and he wants to just be there for him. So whatever the style that is necessary for the song, he's not going to overstate it. He's not going to overshadow it. He's just going to let Geddy be Geddy. And I just thought that was very nice. I thought that was very cool. And it's a side of Neil that most people don't think about. But he really was very supportive to the other members of the band and vice versa.
Jared?
I'm going to wipe away my tears and go with Something for Nothing. Okay. Because I'm wondering if Geddy looked at this song sort of a little bit later and thought, I just can't sing that anymore. Because if I could, we would be playing it live. But, that song totally cooks, and we never heard it really. It's the name of a great podcast, of course, too. And
shout out.
It's just, it's one of these really rock and Rush songs that nobody really knows much about. Yeah.
Yeah. Good points. Omar?
Yeah, I'm going to also say The Twilight Zone is an overlooked song in the sense, for me, that it does so much in so little time. It's just a little over 3 minutes. And Neil is able to describe 2 whole episodes. And you can actually imagine these episodes with the very little that he writes. It's amazing. Like, it's uncanny. The few words he uses is 2 whole episodes that he talks about. And also, obviously, the musical techniques that all 3 of them use in this song, there's subtlety there. It doesn't sound complicated, but when you start digging in, whoa, to get all that to work together to express what the song is all about, I think it's pretty impressive what they can do in such a short amount of time.
Absolutely. Paul?
I have to agree with Donna and Adam. Tears, for me, is the most probably an overlooked song on that album because it's so different from the rest. It stands out, and some fans might just kind of skip from it. But to me, it's such a beautifully written song. It's like Donna said, it comes. You can feel the emotion when Geddy sings it. And personally, for me, it has a new meaning since Neil passed. It just gets to me every single time I hear it. I can't skip that song if it comes up on my Spotify. So, but
for sure. David?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a song that all of you have overlooked, Lessons.
I was going to say 2112.
Well played.
I was waiting for someone to say 2112.
But Lessons for a couple of reasons. One, Alex wrote the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
When did that happen after Lessons? I don't think at all. And the guitar solo playing it out was a great mid-1970s ripping guitar solo. I want to say the same thing for Something for Nothing, too. The guitar work in that. But it was just an awesome solo, and it's a great song, and it's overlooked.
For sure. Well, like I mentioned, we called an audible mid-episode, so we went debut album through 2112 here. So we have some extra planning to do to decide how we're going to do the rest of this. We're going to do that off camera, but we will get to all the albums, and we will give you, our picks as to what we think are the overlooked songs. Because for some reason, I feel like whether it's Reddit or Donna, you put out on Twitter, what are some underrated Rush tracks? I mean, underrated, overlooked, kind of parallel terms in a way, I guess I would think. I see this question all the time on Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, wherever, Instagram, amongst the Rush community. And I think this is a project that we, I think the fans will really appreciate. So,
and if you're watching this, which we hope you are, don't forget to leave us a comment. Believe it or don't, we read the comments. So if you see that we just said X and you're like, I don't think so, tell us what song we should have. Maybe we'll feature it on an upcoming cast. You just never know. We get ideas all the time, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, tell us why you think 2112, the song, is overlooked, or tell us why you think, Anthem or Bytor and the Snow Dog or whatever, some of the popular tracks are overlooked. Give us your opinion and, we'll be happy to comment back. So, yeah, like I said, we'll be back with this topic for the remaining albums at some point. And please, subscribe to the channel if you like this episode, leave us a comment, like the video, and so on and so forth. You know the drill. Thanks, everyone. Take care.